Hi guys, Beck here from Church on Tarwin. Today I am going to be talking to you about spiritual growth, and I'm going to be talking about some stuff from a book by a man named Robert Mulholland, and the book is called Invitation to a Journey, and it's got some really poignant information about ways in which we can grow in our spiritual journey. So I'm going to start off by reading you a quote from the book. The way to spiritual wholeness lies in an increased faithful response to the one whose purpose shapes our path, whose grace redeems our detours, whose power liberates us from crippling bondages of the prior journey, and whose transforming presence meets us at each turn in the road. There are four main areas in which we're going to look at in regard to spiritual growth. The first one is called awakening, and that is when we first become alive to the reality that God is real and that He wants to have a relationship with us. And I think if you've had that experience, we can all agree that that is a really incredible time. It's amazing to know how well we are loved. It's amazing to know that God has seen us and knows us and has plans for us. So this time of awakening is an invitation to you to either decide to say yes to a relationship with God or to ignore that. But the fact is, you've already been awakened. You already know that God is real. So you now are responsible for what your reaction to God is going to be. Will you be coming into a relationship with Him? Or will you just be deciding to stay the same as things ever were? But you've had this awakening. So please, I want to ask you, if you have had that experience, or if you're having that experience, don't ignore the call of God today, because it's something unique and amazing when God calls you and invites you into a relationship with Him. The next area is called Purgation, because it is a time where we are going to be purging ourselves of a lot of the things that have marked our behaviours, our attitudes, our morals, our ethics. Everything is going to change when you come into the presence of God. No longer are you going to want to carry some of those things that used to feel okay, because you've become a new creation, and the things that you used to do or the ways that you used to feel become transformed in the presence of God. So you might want to put aside some things. You might want to take some things to God and say, hey, God, I don't want these things to be a part of my life anymore. They just don't feel right. They just don't sit like they used to. Purgation is a time when we start to come into an alignment with the holiness of God, where we start to put aside some of the things that perhaps used to be characteristics of who we were and behaviours that we used to have. But we start to take on the goodness of God, and we start to take on the holiness of God, in the sense that not that holy that we are, we've been made righteous by Christ, but the holiness in the fact that we've been set apart. We're actually countercultural to the world now. We're actually different to who we were before and to who other people are, because in the presence of God, things have got to be holy and things have got to be righteous, and we feel different. So that is the second stage of purgation. The next area is called illumination, and it's about that amazement. And now we've gone through the awakening and we've gone through the purging, and we come into this sense of getting in harmony with God. This sense of knowing who He is and Him knowing who we are, and just having this sense of peace and a sense of joy about our walk with God, so that no longer are we in this sense of trudgery and in this sense of survival, but we come into this sense of flourishing and this sense of thriving. We are illuminated by the presence of God, and it is impacting all of our environments. It's not just impacting us when we come to church on Sunday, it's impacting our workplaces, it's impacting our friendships, it's impacting our families, it's impacting every area of where we go. And don't be surprised if somebody says, what's happened to you? Something's changed, something's different. And that is the process of illumination, of the spiritual growth, of bearing that presence of God, of bearing that glory of God, of becoming that message of God. Last but not least, we have the last stage, which is union, where we are able to give over something of ourselves to God, where our faith has increased to the point that we can trust God with things that we otherwise would have wanted to control. I had a situation like this some years ago when I was going through a breakup in a really important relationship, and I just was pleading to God, why has this happened? What can I do, God? I wanted to fast. I wanted to seek answers. And just as I was putting everything I thought I possibly could into it, I got pulled over by a police car and fined for speeding in an area where I actually thought I was doing the right thing. And I was like, God, why would you let this happen to me? I was striving so hard to get to this point of understanding. And the Lord said to me, you don't have to understand. Only I have to understand. And when you trust that God understands, then that union becomes complete because you are joined with Him in faith, and your journey becomes about faith not knowing. And that is what it's all about. It's all about faith. Now, we don't go through all these 4 different areas equally at the same time. Sometimes we might be up here in one area and sometimes down here in another. And we're going to keep moving around because our journey is alive. It's not stagnant. God remains the same, but He continues to peel away different layers of who we are and to continue to teach us and show us new things. So don't be surprised if one day you feel like, you're doing really well in a specific area, and the next day you feel like, maybe I'm not going so well. God's just bringing you into a season. God is just bringing you into a season of teaching. For every time we go up a spiritual level, you might say, or we learn something new, God is just drawing us deeper and closer to Him. And that's what the spiritual journey is about. It's about allowing God to show us what He wants to show us. It's not about our striving. It's not about how much we can read, how much we can do, how much we can bless others. It's about having the faith in the relationship with God to allow Him to teach us in every situation. So I hope this message has blessed you. And I hope that you will continue to rely on God for your spiritual growth by just dwelling in Him, spending time with Him, and relying on Him in all circumstances to bring about new growth in that journey. Bless you guys, and I'll see you again real soon.